Hello to my beautiful and wonderful Math Core family. I'm Mrs. Cofield, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back to the Operations on the Real Numbers course. Today is lesson number 18, and we're going to talk about division, dividing decimals, and dividing by zero. Now let's do a quick recap about what we discussed yesterday. We did introduce division yesterday, and I gave you guys a definition, allowing you to realize that division is really just multiplication of the flip, right? The reciprocal is the technical term for it. But today, we're going to do something that's not even going to involve that whole reciprocal flipping stuff, We're going to get into something that's way easier than that. And that, my friends, is dividing decimals, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in and I'll show you what I mean, all right? So make sure, again, that you have your notebook available and your pencil to take some wonderful notes. All right, let's go. So again, we talked about the operations, and I know you know that there are two main operations on the real numbers. Those two are addition and multiplication. And again, we said that subtraction is really just addition of the opposite. And we also know that division now, like I said, was multiplication of the reciprocal, okay? But again, in this case, we're going to talk about division using decimals. Now, put this in your notes right here. Now, I need you guys to know that dividing decimals is easy. All you have to do is just respect the decimal point. Now, this is a good time to sing R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Thank you, Aretha. Again, dividing decimals is easy. Just put some respect on the decimal point, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll show you what I mean. And now we're going to go into our first example. Here we go. So it says we're going to divide 9 36 divided by 3. Okay, so like I said, you're going to have to show some respect to that decimal point right there. So we're going to go ahead and set it up as usual, right? And if we're going to set up the division, it's going to look like this. I usually say top dog in the house, but in this case, just consider it the first dog in the house, right? So we have 9 36 in the house. And on the outside of the house, we have our 3, right? Now, when I say put some respect on that decimal's name, I mean, all you have to do is see where it's already placed, and then you place the decimal at the top at that same place, okay? And you make sure it's clearly defined, just like that, okay? So now we can go ahead and divide as usual. So let's do it. How many times does 3 go into 9? Yes. That's 3 times. And then 3 times 3 is 9. You subtract, you get your 0, and you bring down your next number, which is 3. So now, how many times does 3 go into 3? 1 time, right? Put your 1 at the top, and then you say 3 times 1 is 3. You subtract, that's another 0, and I'm going to bring down my last number, which is 6. Now 3 goes into 6 2 times. My 2 goes at the top. 2 times 3 is 6. You subtract, there is no remainder. So check that out, guys. Our final answer is just 3 12 hundredths. So that was pretty easy, right? So like I said, all you have to do is show some R-E-S-P-E-C-T to that decimal point by basically just like lining it up where it already is, like at the top. It needs to be lined up where it is in the house, okay? Let's try another one, right? You guys were amazing at that one. And this one, we're going to do 246 5/10 divided by 5. Okay. Is that any different than what we did before? Let's find out. Now, let's set it up as usual. And this is what it looks like. Again, we're putting our left dog in the house, right? So that's our 246.5 in the house, and our 5 is on the outside. Now, my first step, again, I said, put some respect on that decimal. Place it at the top, just like that, okay? So now we can go ahead and divide as usual. So 5 goes into 2. It doesn't, right? 5 goes into 24. Yes, it does. How many times? That will be 4 times, my dear. And now 5 times 4, that's 20. And now we can subtract. And when we subtract, we know that we're going to get 4. We can bring down the 6. And now we have 46. How many times does 5 go into 46? Well, it goes in there 9 times. And 9 times 5 is 45. When we subtract, we get 1. And now we can bring down our last number, which is 15. 5 goes into 15 how many times? A clean 3 times, because 5 times 3 is 15. There is no remainder. Woo! So now that we've done all this and we have no remainder, look at that. Simple. Our final answer, when we say 246 and 5/10 divided by 5, it's simply 49 and 3/10. Beautiful job. Give yourself a hand. But we're not done yet, okay? So I'm going to make sure you have this down in your notes. And we're going to segue into another one. Let's try it. So in our next example, we have 2 and 24 hundredths divided by 7/10. Now, do you notice anything different here? Absolutely. In this case, they want us to divide by a decimal. But how do we divide by decimals? Well, similar to mixed numbers, we don't. We're going to get rid of that decimal they want us to divide by. And I'm going to tell you guys a little trick of how we can do that. Well, just know that whatever you do on the left side, you also have to do it on the right side, okay? So we're going to end up just like moving that decimal point over, and so until it's a whole number, so we don't have a decimal anymore. So that means if we start with that number 7/10 or 0.7, and if I was to move that decimal place over once right there, that number now becomes a whole 7, right? So I just moved it over once. What if we do the same thing with our 2.24? If we just move it over once, because that's what we did on the last one, we're going to end up with 2.4. That's 22.4. So technically, what we're going to be dividing is 22.4 divided by 7. Again, whatever you do on the left side, you have to do on the right side, and vice versa, okay? So now we can go ahead and divide as usual. So I'm going to set it up now. We're going to put our left dog in the house. Left dog in the house. There's our 22.4, and our 7 is on the outside. And again, we got to put some respect on that decimal, right? So here we go. Sing R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And you're going to make sure that you put that decimal right there at the top, just like that, okay? Now we can go ahead and divide as usual. So question, family, how many times does 7 go into 22? Good. That's 3 times. And we know that 7 times 3 is 21. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract. We end up with 1. Now let's bring down that 4. And now we have 14, right? Now how many times does 7 go into 14? That's 2 times. Simple, right? And 2 times 7 is 14. When we subtract, there's no remainder. Guess what, family? Our final answer is just 3.2. In other words, I could say it fully. That's 3 and 2/10. So therefore, we conclude that 2 and 24 hundredths divided by 7/10 is 3.2. But I love how we got rid of that guy, right? We're not going to be dividing by decimals for real. We have to, change that thing around as well, okay? So 3 and 2/10. Let's try another one. Great work so far. Okay, now in this case, we have 341 thousandths divided by 11 hundredths. Okay, no biggie, no biggie, no diggity, no doubts. Okay, so all we're going to do is get rid of that guy as well, because you see that they're trying to make us divide by 11 hundredths. Now, what did I just say? We're not doing that. We're not going to divide by hundredths. We're going to do better than that. We're going to get rid of that guy, right? And we're going to turn it into something else. We're going to keep moving that decimal place until that guy is a whole number, because he needs to be whole, okay? Because I want to go through that first of all, and I surely wouldn't want to put you through that. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's take that, 11 hundredths and convert it into a whole number by just moving the decimal point over, okay? How many times do you suppose that might be? Well, let's try it and see. Woo! It's only 2 places. So if that's the case, then that means that this one has to move. Whatever we do on the right side, we got to do it on the left as well. So it has to move 2 places as well. And that becomes 34.1. Okay? 34.1. So in essence, what we're really doing is 34.1 divided by 11. So let's see how that looks. 34.1 divided by 11. There it is. So now we can put some respect on that decimal and place it at the top, just like I said, right there. Good. And now let's divide. 11 goes into 34 how many times? I bet you that's 3 times. And 3 times 11 is 33. When we subtract, we get 1. And we can bring down that other one. Ooh, that's clean. Look at that. It's 11, guys. And 11 goes into 11 one time. Woo! Just like that. 1 times 11 is 11. When we subtract, there's no remainder. Woo! That boy was extra crispy. So we can see now that 341 thousandths divided by that 11 hundredths, in reality, that's just 3 1/10. Beautiful. I kind of like this stuff. How about you? Don't let these decimals throw you off, guys. You got this, okay? Now, here's a special case. I want to talk to you guys about doing this type of division, but with numbers in the tenths family, okay? So there's a little shortcut here as well. Whenever you're divided by 10, all you have to do is shift that decimal place to the left one time. So that means if you're dividing by 100, there's 2 zeros in there, right? Shift that decimal place to the left 2 times. So if there was like 1,000, which has 3 zeros, how many do you think we're going to shift it over to the left? How many places? Absolutely, 3 times. So that means in a case like this, in reality, you don't even have to show any work. That's how easy it is. I mean, I might be nice and show you just a little, like a little loop or whatever, but all you have to do is just move the decimal place over 1 time, like literally, because there's 1 0 there. So my answer is just 2.37. 2 1/37 hundredths. That's it. I know you love this. Now, you might not like that last one, but I know you're loving this, right? All right, let's try another one of these guys, because he was so simple, right? So here we go. Now we have 51 38 hundredths divided by 100. How many zeros are there? Well, I count 2. And that means that we need to move our decimal place 2 places to the left, just like this. Boop, boop. So our final answer is going to be 0.5138. In other words, 5,138 10,000ths. Beautiful! I love this. You don't even have to show any work. Like, you can draw your little loopties if you want, like doop, doop, but otherwise, ain't nothing to show. Just count how many zeros there are, and that's the amount of places you move your decimal point to the left, okay? So that's beautiful. Name that song. All right, so we're going to keep moving, guys, and let's see if you can do this one. Now we have 9 3/10 divided by 1,000. Now, I hope you guys are catching my drift now, right? We're going to start by counting the amount of zeros. I spy 3 zeros. So that means we're going to take our 9.3 and we're going to move that decimal place 3 places. Which way? To the left, right? All right, so 1, 2, and 3. Boom! Check that out. We got some extra little loopties there, but we can't leave those little loopties hanging. Do I have a volunteer that can tell me what y'all think that should go in that little, loopty right there? Yup, you got it. We're going to put some zeros in there, okay? Just throw some zeros on in there, and I'm going to make that a little prettier for y'all. And this is what your answer is going to look like, right? So, because of those 3 zeros, it makes us move our decimal place 3 places to the left, and we end up with 93 10,000ths. Again, that's 93 10,000ths. All you got to do is count those zeros and move it that many places to the left. Wonderful, guys. I hope y'all are catching on to that. These are some wonderful things to keep in your back pocket, okay? It keeps things moving swiftly, and it makes things a lot easier. All right, guys. So if you guys thought that was easy, then what we're about to do next is going to be super duper easy, right? So now we're going to talk about, more division. But what about cases like this? 0/4. When you read that, remember we said fractions correspond to division. So really this is 0 divided by 4. What's 0 divided by 4? Wait a second. Actually, that's just 0 because 0 divided by any number is 0. So it doesn't matter if it was 0/4 or 0 divided by 17. That's still 0. And then 0 divided by 6 8/10, that's also 0. Oh my God, like 0 divided by any number is just 0, right? Even 0/3, that's 0. Like all these numbers are just equal to 0. That's good to write for your notes, right? And that was pretty easy. But what about another case? I'm going to tell you guys about something that is one of the most important things in mathematics, okay? And that's because it has all to do with division, all right? And you have to make sure you write this down in your notes because this is some phenomenal stuff that the mathematicians discovered. But before we get there, check this out. Now, when we talk about fractions such as 12/4, we know that 12/4 is like 12 divided by 4, and that really gives us just 3, right? But the reason why we know that's 3 is because we can check it. We know that 4 times 3 is equal to 12, right? So that's a great indication of why, we have 12/4 equal to 3. But what about in a case like this? There are some special cases where you're not going to be able to get that beautiful picture as we just saw. In this case here, this is a huge warning. So write this down in your notes. You guys need to know that you can never, ever divide by 0. And I mean never, ever, 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 ever divide by 0. I mean, like, this is technically saying 0 can't be in your denominator because, again, fractions correspond to division, okay? So, for example, 3 over 0 or 3 divided by 0, can we do that? No, you can't do that because you can't ever divide by 0. What about a case like 15 divided by 0? Absolutely not. You can't do that either. It doesn't matter what the numerator is. So it doesn't even matter if that numerator was a case like this one where we have 7 8/10 divided by 0. We still can't do it. Don't try it, guys. Warning, warning, warning. Don't do it. Okay, what about this one? Can we do 0 divided by 0? I mean, I know it looks fancy, but the answer is still no. We can't, okay? So again, take heed to the warning. You can never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, ever divide by 0, okay? I hope you guys are listening. But I'm going to tell you a reason why, okay? The reason why is because when you say 12 divided by 0, if that was to give you a number, then just like in that other case where we did like 12/4 and we got 3, then you need to know that there will be a number that where it's like something times 0 gives us 12. But guess what? There's no such real number such that box times 0 equals 12. It doesn't exist, okay? It's not a real number. So again, 12 divided by 0 equals box. There's nothing that's going to fit in that box because there's no such real number such that box times 0 equals 12. It just doesn't exist, okay? So let's see if you guys were paying attention. Now we're going to do something that's like a little test, So we're going to look at all these numbers and we're going to circle all the following that are not real numbers. So we have 0 divided by 5 and 2/10. And then we have 0 divided by 0. Then we have 0 divided by 1,000. We have 49 divided by 0. And we have 0 divided by 3 8/10. Okay, so let's go through them. Is 0 over 5 and 2/10 a real number? Well, yes, because we just said that when you divide like that, then we know that that's just equal to 0, right? What about 0/0ths, if that's a number? Well, actually, no, it's not, because we just said you cannot, and again, I repeat, you cannot divide by 0. So we got one, okay? What about 0,000ths? Is that a real number? Well, if you were to simplify that, that too would be equal to 0. Good. Now, what about the next case? 49 over 0. Is that a real number? No, because just like I told you before, you can never, ever, 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 ever divide by 0. So that is not a real number, okay? What about 0 divided by 3 and 8/10? Oh, it's similar to the case in the beginning, right there. Yes, because we know if we simplify that, that's just 0. And 0 is a real number. Okay, so there we have it. Woo! We survived. And you guys have figured out the warning. And you've written it in your notes. And you got to remember that you can never, ever, 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 ever divide by 0, right? Okay. Woo! As long as you got that, then guys and gals, we're good to go. Okay, guys. This has been an intriguing lesson number 18. And we've been doing division and dividing decimals and learning that we cannot divide by 0. So even though it says dividing by 0, we cannot, okay? Heed to the warning. All right, guys. Great work today. I appreciate y'all sticking in there with me. We had a lot to do this time. But you guys, you're the greatest, and you keep up the great work, okay? All right. I will see you on tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye.